Alright, we are looking at lesson 95 in Saxon 54 here, so welcome. And let's get right into what we're going to talk about today. Two-step problems about a fraction of a group. So we did talk about two-step problems, two-step word problems. So we're kind of familiar with what it takes to solve two-step problems. This time we're going to apply them to fractions. So you've already done the warm-ups, and let's look at today's new concept. The word problems in this lesson are two-step problems, just like we did last lesson, and they're going to involve fractions. So first, they're actually going to tell you the two steps. Here's this first step. First, step number one, we divide to find the number in one part. Then, we're going to multiply to find the number in more than one part. So the first step, divide. Second step is multiply. Two steps. Here's an example. There were 30 campers in the forest. 3/5, there's your fraction, 3/5 of them wore green jackets. How many campers wore green jackets? Okay? So, notice I'm just going to identify some of the information. Good step here just to make sure you're clear as far as what they're talking about. 30 total campers, but only a fraction of them, that means only part of the 30, not all the 30, a fraction of them wore green jackets. And then it says how many campers wore green jackets. So the word fifths tells us that there are 5 equal parts. That means down here, that bottom number is telling you how many you can divide the number into. So that 30, you can divide it into 5 equal parts. And then we want 3 of those parts. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to find the number of campers in each group. In other words, in each of the 5 equally divided groups. And then we're going to find out, well, if we divide them into 5 groups, how many of the groups do we want? We want 3 of them. So we're going to take our 30 and divide by 5. We're going to divide by 5. This is another way to write 30 divided by 5, or 30 divided by 5, the way they have it here. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So we're going to take that 30 and we're going to divide it into 6 equal groups. So each of these are equal groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of this diagram is representing 30. But each of those 6 groups, each of those 5 groups is going to be 6 in a group. Sorry about that. There are 5 groups, and that means there are 6 in each group. So this is 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and 6. There are 6 people in each of those. I should only have 5 groups. My apologies. Let's back up here. My apologies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 groups. That's 30 people, and I should have 6 here, and 6 in there, and 6 in there, and 6 in there, and 6 in there. There we go. That's much better. So that gives me a total of my 30. 5 groups. Each group there's 6. 6 times 5 is 30, or 30 divided by 5 is 6. Okay? Now we want 3 of those groups who wore green jackets. That means 2 of the groups did not. So that means 3 of them, these 3, let's take these 3 right here, assume those 3 are wearing jackets, and 3 times 6 is going to tell you then how many of the campers were wearing green jackets. That would be 18. If they're not asking, but we could find how many did not wear the green jackets, that would be 2 of those groups. 2 times 6 is 12. Okay? Alright, let's look at this one. 2/3. 2/3 is your fraction of the 24 elves worked in the toy factory. How many elves worked in the toy factory? So I'm going to take my 24 and I'm going to divide it into a certain number of groups. How many? The bottom number is going to tell me. I'm going to divide it into 3 groups. Well, 24 divided by 3 is 8. That means in each of those groups there are 8 elves. 8 plus 8 plus 8 is 24, or 3 times 8 is 24. You want how many of those groups? It says here 2 of the thirds. So 2 of them, we're going to take 2 of these right here. That's going to tell us that 16 worked in the toy factory. How many did not? The remaining 8, the other group. Here's some practice. So, if we take our problems here, and it's really wise. I like the strategy here of diagramming it. It's very helpful. 3/4 of the 24 checkers were still on the board. So 3 out of the 4 parts or groups of the 24 checkers are still on the board. So let's take our 24, our entire 24, that diagram, that's a rectangle, that diagram is representing all 24, and I'm going to divide it into fourths. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that means how many is going to be in each group? Well, I take 24 divided by 4, and you get 6. So each of these separate groups, each of the 4 groups, is going to have 6 in them. So that means you want 3 of those groups. 1, 2, 3. And this group down here is not still on the board. So 3 of the groups, each group is 6. 3 times 6, 3 times 6 is going to give you your 18. And the remaining 6 down here are not on the board. So what's on the board? Those 18. 2/5 of the 30 soldiers guarded the fort. How many soldiers guarded? So let's take our diagram here. We have 30 total. We're going to divide that 30 into fifths. So 5 equal groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we want to know how many in each of those. Well, 30 divided by 5 is going to give me 6. So now I know that I want 2 of the groups, not the other 3. 2 of those groups is going to give me a total of 12. So it's 12 who were guarding the fort. 3/8 of the 40. So you got 40. Let's make our diagram here. 40 is the total, and I want to divide that into eighths. Oops, that's not a very good diagram, but you get the idea. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. Each group, how many in each group? Well, you got to take your 40 divided by 8. That gives you 5. So 5 is in each group. And now what we want to do is we want to figure out how many of those groups are, as described here, had perfect scores. How many? 3. Only 3 of the groups. So 3 times 5 is 15. The remaining groups, which would be the remaining 5 groups, give you a total of 25 that did not get perfect scores. Okay? Alright, so I hope that's helpful. Set with me there. You can go on and work on your problem set, and make sure you're showing your work. Show your work, show your steps, detail what you're doing, write down what you're thinking. It's very helpful. Alright,